Alrighty. We are going today to talk about the tropics. So we're going to wait for a couple people to come in, and we will talk all about the tropics this evening and what is ongoing with that. Just waiting for a few people to come in. We'll kind of go ahead and get started. So thank you all for coming in, and again, we are mainly discussing the tropics this evening, going over everything that you kind of need to know about the tropics. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to chime in, and of course I will be more than happy to ask. But we have 3 areas of disturbance this evening, both with respectable chances of developing. Good evening, good evening. So both systems all 3 of our systems have at least some chance of undergoing tropical cyclone genesis over the next 5 days. This wave, curiously enough, right near, I've recovered from Hurricane Laura. How was the hurricane? How did everything go? And I hope you guys are safe, you know. But curiously enough, this little wave right here, none of these have been designated as an invest yet, but this little curious wave right here that has a 30% chance of developing over the next 5 days is going to be moving into more favorable environment the further west it goes. And this reminds a lot of Hurricane Marco that formed, only last week. And, it's something to kind of take note of. Wow, Cameron, wow. And that place was hit hard, man. Were you guys in that storm surge? I'm pretty sure almost everyone was in that storm surge threat, but how did you guys manage? Did you guys happen to evacuate or what happened? Certainly curious to know. But, this particular area has a 30% chance of development moving into a more favorable environment, and this is going to be something we're really going to have to watch over the next 5 days, as this generally continues off towards the west-northwest here, and that will be something to watch. We also have this tropical wave with a 40% chance of development that we'll be watching very carefully over the next several days, as this moves also off towards the west. So we'll be watching this. Not really anything to worry about, but we'll be watching it. Yeah, it's certainly good that you evacuated. Certainly pretty good that you, managed to evacuate. Because, that storm surge in Cameron, Louisiana was absolutely terrible. And, certainly was bad. But then we have this tropical wave, or tropical disturbance, not really a wave, but disturbance. This is in the southwestern coast right now, off the western part of Florida. And this will be moving in towards Florida over the next several days, bringing with it heavy rainfall, maybe some gusty winds, moving out into the open Atlantic basin, and then potentially developing up here as a tropical cyclone up there. Yeah, that's no problem, American Amtrak girlfriend. No problem at all. In 5 days, we'll know more about these waves. Yeah, we're going to know a lot more about these waves over the next couple of days, really. We're going to have to really watch, but not really particularly focused on one system yet. This one, though, right now approaching the Lesser Antilles, certainly does have some potential with it, though, so that will be interesting to watch. I'm really sorry to hear that your house got wiped off its foundation, man. I can only imagine I can only imagine the trauma and everything else kind of behind that, and I really sympathize with you, man. And, of course, if you ever need to talk to anyone, certainly I'm here to, you can DM me or anything. But these couple of systems we'll be watching very carefully, and I'm going to pull up the satellite imagery now so we can kind of look over everything. But we're going to pull up the satellite imagery and look at all of that. So let's sub-regional. So we're going to look at our Florida system right here. And again, once we do that, then we'll pop on the mapping with the counties and state borders. Okay, so this right here, we're watching our two systems. Hey, no problem, man. So this is our system right now in the Gulf of Mexico, and we'll play this here on a little bit of a loop, and you know, we'll watch this. Yeah, Antigua. You know, and we'll have to watch for Antigua again. You know, going back to this map, you know, we've got, you know, two systems that we're really going to have to watch here. So well, how many streams have you attended, American Amtrak Rail fan? I'm not like actively keeping track, but I'm pretty sure that you've been here for 3. So I'm gonna go ahead and make you a moderator. So boom, there you go, sir. But these couple of systems we'll really have to watch, and again, the Florida system is going to be something we'll have to watch, kind of the Gulf Coast system right now, because again, you know, you get thunderstorms that persist over you know, the warm Gulf of Mexico for, you know, even a couple of days. You can start to see some of the rotation with it. No, you are not, but let me go ahead and make you a moderator. There you go, sir. You are now a moderator. So, yeah, and that's why I made him moderator, because I thought he was in 3. And that's kind of my limit, you know, that's kind of like what I really want to see. Like, you know, if people kind of keep it, you know, and if people are pretty chill and relaxed and everything, you know, you can all be moderators. So it's just really, you know, to kind of weed out any of the behavioral problems, basically, so that we don't have any behavioral problems. But yeah, so, you know, we got showers and thunderstorms over Florida. We got, you know, thunderstorms in the Gulf of Mexico. You know, and we're really going to have to watch, because again, this is in an area of you know, pretty high, you know, water temperatures, pretty high upper ocean heat content values. And I'm going to pull up the actual water temperatures in this area right now, and we'll just kind of Western Atlantic. Boom, there we go. So water temperatures in this area are running at about 29 to 30 Celsius, and these areas weren't necessarily affected by Marco or Laura. So yeah, certainly, you know, and thank you for that, American Amtrak Rail fan. You know, so often, you know, sometimes I see kind of moderators, you know, abusing their power and stuff like that, but, you know, it's good to kind of have a nice little community in here that, you know, is very respectful and very, you know, mature and everything. So I thank everybody. But water temperatures in this region, 29, 30 Celsius, you know, oh yeah. Paula, I'm going to make you a moderator as well. There you go. You are now a moderator, ma'am. So, again, you know, running, you know, 29, 30 Celsius, you know, these water temperatures are very warm. They haven't been disturbed much by, you know, Marco or Laura. And this is going to move into an increasingly favorable environment out here in the Gulf Stream. So this probably will have a chance to go on to develop off the east coast of the United States. Hopefully we don't have any more majors. Yeah, I'm really hoping that we don't have any more major hurricanes. You know, certainly the pattern over the next several weeks, and you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to kind of break my own rule here and look out beyond 5 days, at least in the models, just to give you an idea of the ridge in the high pressure systems. So bear with me one second. We're going to get that up here. But you can clearly see how we have this very strong ridge of high pressure right now out across the Atlantic Basin. Basically the 594 decameter line in that dark red, that's kind of your basic indicator of very strong ridging. Hey, we're out in Florida. I'm actually in Orlando, so we're out in Florida. I think you said you were somewhere along the coast. Hello there, John. Hello. So this ridge strength is very high, very strong. And just to see how it persists, you can see now the ridge does break down a little bit, but then it comes ferociously back, and this is, out to September 6th. But it gives you a general idea that this ridge is going to be very strong over the next several days and several weeks. Which models have been... So I've been really finding that the CMC, at least in terms of tropical cyclone development, have been very... well, I wouldn't say very reliable, but I will say the Icon model and the CMC, the upgraded CMC, has performed slightly better with undergoing tropical cyclone genesis than the GFS and the Euro. So we'll see if that kind of holds true throughout the remainder of the season. How do the ridges? So that's a great question. So a ridge of high pressure, basically, and what this does, it blocks tropical cyclones from turning into them. So as you can see here, we'll kind of back this up to give you a good illustration. So like with Laura, or we'll actually just kind of scoot forward. So here you have a big ridge of high pressure, right? This ridge, like this ridge of high pressure right here blocks any potential tropical cyclone from moving into that ridge, from moving further north. So the ridge basically guides where the tropical cyclone can kind of steer, where it can go. So it kind of helps to be a determining factor of where these tropical cyclones go. So if you have a big high area of high pressure to the north of a tropical storm or hurricane, they can't turn northward and escape out to sea. So if you have a big ridge sitting over, Bermuda and over, the Azores, the Bermuda Azores High, it prevents tropical storms and hurricanes from turning on out to sea, and it forces them westward to impact land. So this is kind of a very, summed down, that's a very brief kind of description of the ridge, but it kind of does give everybody kind of a basic understanding. So the tropical wave near Africa, I think, could certainly be something we'll have to watch. And, going over the next 5 days here from the National Hurricane Center, 40% chance, that's a, 4 out of 10 shot at becoming a tropical storm and, or, tropical depression or tropical storm. This will be moving westward over the next couple of days, and by the time it gets into the western part of the Atlantic, it will undergo a more favorable environment, and it will probably allow for additional development. So it doesn't look all that impressive right now, but it certainly seems like there will be something trying to form in the Western Atlantic Basin over the next several days as this wave moves westward. Now, how strong it will be and where it will go obviously remains the big question, but certainly stuff seems to be heating up right now, and I would keep a close eye on that wave near the Cabo Verde Islands currently, because that certainly would have a chance to undergo tropical cyclone genesis over the next couple of days. So hey, no problem there, Harrison. Also, April, I'm sorry I forgot to make you a moderator, but you are now a moderator. So, welcome to the moderator club. But yeah, so we'll have to really watch these areas. And again, the area in the Gulf of Mexico is particularly interesting. And at least if it doesn't develop, it is still likely to bring showers and thunderstorms to that area. Oops, I meant what changes the tropical wave in the satellite? What do you mean by like? What do you mean by like changes the tropical wave in Africa in satellite? Like, what do you mean by that? So I'm not exactly sure. Yeah, you know, and Laura did not. You know, Laura did not look interesting at all. Basically, you know, but it really, you know, it took a couple of days, but Laura finally came together. And you kind of saw the end result of what you can get this time of the year. So, and you know, we've been talking about it. But you know, what I'm going to do is actually put on the lightning flash counter here. And you can really see how there is a lot of lightning in some of these convective bands south of Louisiana, of course, in Florida and in the Gulf of Mexico with these thunderstorms that are going up. Michael, I have a question. Do you think all three of them will at least be a tropical cyclone or storm, the waves right now? So here is my kind of thoughts to that. Let's bring that up. So here's my thoughts. So this tropical wave coming from the Gulf of Mexico right now into off the east coast of Florida and off the east coast of the United States. This one will probably have a decent shot at becoming something, whether it's a depression, storm, or hurricane. I don't really know at this point, but it should become a tropical cyclone, at least even if it's a tropical depression. This wave right now that is approaching the Lesser Antilles should become Max, you can go ahead and send the you can go ahead and send a link. You can go ahead and send a link. I might have to approve the link because I kind of get things that, you know, if people send links for whatever reason, the YouTube algorithm doesn't necessarily like that. So I would have to approve it. But yeah, you certainly can send that link. But this disturbance looks like almost in the same place as Hurricane Marco. You know, and this one looks to have a chance. And then, of course, this wave coming off of Africa now, that one definitely has something that we're going to have to watch. So the tropical wave has more convection or less. Okay, yeah, so we'll take a look at that now, actually. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go back to the sector view. So we're going to go global sectors, and we're going to focus in on Africa. And we'll take the IR satellite. So this is the IR satellite. So you can kind of see where we have a convergence in the thunderstorms right now, kind of in this general vicinity coming off the Cabo Verde Islands. And then we have another wave coming right behind that. And, you know, this will be something we'll really have to watch, you know, kind of going forward with time, because these waves are going to be rolling off one after another after another. Yeah, well, like, are you asking to see the satellite imagery? Because this is, you know, this is the IR satellite, but, because the visible satellite, we don't have visible anymore because the sunset, obviously. But it does seem like there is some more convection with the wave near Africa right now. Compared to earlier, you know, it seems like, you know, there's been some convective flare-ups. There's been some convection, too, flaring up over, you know, the tropical wave near the Lesser Antilles currently. So what I can do for the visible satellite is I can kind of back this up to 48 frames. Okay, you want to see the IR, yeah. For the visible satellite, I'm going to back it up about 48 frames, and you can see the day-night delineator. But there's certainly stuff to watch out there, that's for sure. How many major hurricanes do you think we'll get this year? So, I think there will certainly be a chance to see probably another, you know, 3 to 4 major hurricanes that could come, into that area. So, by the way, just wait real quick. I'm going to quickly mute the mic, and then I'm going to plug my computer in. So just 1 second. All right. So have you heard of Force 13? Yeah. So Force 13. All right. They're they're good for their animations and predictions. Although I don't like when they issue their own cones, basically, for systems that haven't even formed or anything like that, and kind of going against the Hurricane Center. I don't necessarily agree with that sort of thing. But their predictions and their animations are great. I love those. I just don't like the kind of going against the Hurricane Center. But that's their prerogative. So, I'll leave that up to them, to kind of do that. And no problem there. I think 4 to 6 more majors. Yeah, we could easily see, a couple more major hurricanes. That's for sure. Hey, man, nothing much. Just been, relaxing. Finally getting some days off of work. So, finally. But, 3 systems, we're going to have a lot to watch here. Yes, absolutely. You can definitely be a moderator. Force 13 is basically a YouTube channel that and stuff like that, and animations and stuff. So I feel like by mid-September there's going to be more activity in the Gulf. And that's certainly possible there. Because we're already seeing, stuff in the Gulf of Mexico try to just pop off, one after another. We saw Laura, we saw Marco. Obviously Marco got torn to shreds by the wind shear, but, if it did not have any wind shear, that thing would have been a major. Obviously Laura was a Category 4. And now we got 3 other systems we got to watch. So do you think we'll get into the Greek alphabet? Yeah, it's a very real possibility that we end up very close to the Greek alphabet, or probably into the Greek alphabet. Do you think that a tropical wave in Africa could become a hurricane? Models like the GFS and Euro are showing that. It's a very real possibility, and, let's just play some devil's advocate here, and I'm going to pop on the Euro and the 850 vorticity. Yes, I have heard of Mark Sudduth. Actually, I follow him, and I am really influenced by the work that he does. He does some amazing work. Mark is a very humbling guy. Actually, I'm trying to team up with him if they come down to Florida for a hurricane mission this year. So, but here's a look at the 12Z Euro, and again, I think also to answer your question, the last time the Greek alphabet was used, I believe, was in 2005. I think. Don't quote me on that, but I think it was 2005. But you can see, the Euro, it does some weird wonky things. But this little wave right here, I'm going to circle it so you guys can see it. This little wave right here that I'm circling, this one really has to be monitored because of the fact that you just can't trust any vorticity signature entering into the southwestern Atlantic. You just can't. Let's see. Do you think the tropical wave near Mexico will go near Florida as a major hurricane? So, probably not going to see any significant major hurricane threats right now, at least. There could be a tropical storm or something, but right now to say if Florida's going to be impacted or whatever it's still way out in time, and we just don't have those good answers yet right now. So, but of course, keep checking back because things are obviously going to change, but we just don't really have, we just don't know yet because it's just so far out in time. Thank you very much for those kind words, about considering Mark and I as your mentors. It's incredibly humbling, man. Incredibly humbling. 2005 was certainly a very busy season. And, that is certainly going to be, if we get into the Greek alphabet, it's going to be interesting. Hey, I live in Orlando too, so obviously no reason to be concerned. Just kind of keep monitoring things, and we'll kind of get you through it, man. The Greek alphabet was used when you said, our resident said, if it's a weekend, there's a hurricane. Yeah, pretty much. Thankfully, right now, we, of course, we'll be having to monitor things, but hopefully things will be pretty chill for the next few days. I've seen some model guidance indicating a very strong upper-level easterlies in the Caribbean, which is very conductive. Yeah, that could be something we'll really have to watch. The upper-level pattern is going to become pretty favorable. And a way we can kind of demonstrate that is by looking at the Madden-Julian oscillation. And we'll kind of look at that here and kind of show that to you guys. Nana could form, honestly, by next week, to be quite honest. Yeah, hurricanes, watching hurricanes, they're great. They are great to watch, but the death and destruction behind them is absolutely tragic. J Gaming, yep, you certainly can. You've been here for more than 3 streams, so there you go, sir. But this is the Madden-Julian oscillation, and again, basically, if you're unfamiliar what you're looking at, these blue colors, these blues and purples here, where I'm really zooming into, this is basically where you have your rising air in the atmosphere, and it's a pretty strong rising effect, basically. And you can see that right now is positioned over Africa and the Atlantic Basin, with sinking motion almost unanimously over the Western Pacific and the Eastern Pacific. So this favors the Atlantic Basin, at least for the next several weeks, to go for. What's the chances of these waves dying off? So not really, not really high potential, because we don't have strong upper level winds that are just going to tear this thing apart, and the relative humidity will be increasing as they move further west. Yeah, carbon monoxide poisoning is a very big situation, very big problem, and it comes stemming from people that don't know how to use generators correctly, for the most part. Hi, where does Jamaica stand? Looks like the wave closest to Caribbean will affect Jamaica. So, for a quick rundown of what's going on for Jamaica. So, Jamaica is obviously right here. But you do have this wave that will be coming up with a 30% chance over the next 5 days. This wave could bring some potential for heavy rainfall and gusty winds to Jamaica. Not really expecting this to be a big system, but could bring some heavy rainfall, obviously, and some gusty winds from time to time. Not really expecting, not really expecting this to be something huge when it approaches that area, but it could be a tropical storm somewhere near Jamaica within about, 5 to 6 days or so. I never heard of the Madden-Julian oscillation. Now I do. What's it all about? Kind of impressed at the positive Madden-Julian oscillation Yeah, so, and basically to kind of reverb over the Matt Julian, do you think, yeah, I've heard of him. I've personally never watched his videos. I have heard of him. I've never watched his content in the past. But, it's something that I certainly might take a look at. But, to what you were saying, John, with the Mount Julian oscillation, all that sinking air right now is over the Western Pacific and over the Eastern Pacific. So, and the rising air is over the Atlantic Basin and should stay that way for the next couple of weeks. So we'll have to watch. No. So right now, we're not really expecting a hurricane to be near Jamaica. There is the potential that a hurricane or that a tropical cyclone of some magnitude might be approaching near Jamaica within the next couple of days, but not expecting a hurricane or anything. Hi, I would like to know about the Saharan dust. Does Saharan dust have a start to an ending season? So, the Saharan air layer does not necessarily indicate the death of a season. And we'll kind of bring this out here to 96 frames on the visible satellite imagery. And you can see this dry, dusty, stable air that's kind of present all to the north of these tropical waves. Saharan air, or SAO, is very prevalent throughout any given hurricane season, 2005, 2017, etc. And, these areas, of Saharan air, will come and, they will wax and wane with, these outbreaks that happen from time to time. And they occasionally can squash development, but it's not a season ender in most cases. And especially this year, it is not a season ender. So the Saharan dust will kind of be present for a little bit, and then it's going to abate. We'll get more hurricane, more tropical cyclones to kind of come through, more Saharan air. It's kind of just a cycle, basically. Hello there from St. Lucia. Do you think Florida is going to get hit by a big hurricane? So, really hard to tell right now. The steering pattern generally favors more storms to not recurve and impact land. But again, with any given storm, it is too hard to determine where it's going to go when one hasn't formed yet. So, to answer your question, unfortunately, it's just too far out in time right now to actually to tell whether or not one specific area is going to be impacted or not. So, unfortunately, I couldn't really answer your question. April Brooks did become a moderator. No, so for Hurricane Katrina, Harrison, well, I obviously saw it. I saw, Katrina, from documentaries and stuff, but I was never in it. I was actually living in Indiana at the time. J Gaming, there is no hurricane near Florida at the moment. There's no hurricane at Florida, near Florida. There's no hurricane in the Atlantic Basin whatsoever to talk about right now. Let's see. The Saharan air has kind of been keeping the season west-based, and looking at the model guidance so far, I expect it to continue. Yeah, the GFS forecast, the GFS forecast, certainly has been showing a more favorable environment. And we can kind of show that here on the GFS forecast. Here we'll go to the forecast models. And we will look at the Western Atlantic. And we'll go to the precipitation and moisture fields here. Do you think that the Metro France basin will be active? I actually don't know much about the France basin. but I would certainly kind of read up and understand more about that. I like to kind of know what I'm talking about before I say anything. So unfortunately, I don't know much about it, but I will look up on it and certainly, get back to you at some point. I go live, Sammy. I go live basically whenever, but I'll try to do lives almost about once a week or so, pending work and college schedule. So. Since Maria hit Puerto Rico in 2017, I would not be surprised if Puerto Rico gets hit again, but hopefully not. Hopefully not, John, because, we're really hoping that, Laura was the only major hurricane, but I have a feeling that won't be the truth, or that won't be the case. But the, Atlantic Basin, you can see how it's going to get pretty moist in the western part of the basin over the next couple of days. And that might allow enough for a tropical cyclone to go on to develop. So we'll be watching this pretty carefully. But it does look like that more moisture is going to be able to penetrate into the Caribbean and in this general vicinity. So we'll have to really watch for something. Actually, increasing monsoon activity, I believe, with the monsoon trough. So the monsoon trough, it's kind of that kind of wait and see game. Because if we get something to break away from the monsoon trough and it's a closed low-level center of circulation, boom, it's off to the races. So, yeah, but the GFS is showing an increase in monsoon activity, which would promote. Yeah, so, like with the monsoon activity, generally, it does favor the more potential for tropical cyclones. Michael, were you shocked about the H-Wharf? I was right by Laura. So, I was not necessarily shocked by the H-Wharf doing pretty well with Laura. It's always a pretty well-respected model. Of course, it had its own trials and errors, basically. But given the environment that we kind of saw ahead of Laura in the Gulf of Mexico, I think that it was something that, was kind of a looming situation, basically. But I will have to say, the H-Wharf, I wouldn't say necessarily 100% nailed it because it kept forming the center towards the north, but it got it pretty darn close, and we were pretty confident, and I was pretty confident a couple of days out saying that this could be a big problem. So it was one of the more confident forecasts that I've had, at least in the 5-day range in terms of intensity. So which disturbance would be Nana? It really depends on which one forms first, but I'm thinking this one that comes off the east coast of the United States, this one would probably become Nana if I had a bet. But don't be sleeping on this wave right now near the Lesser Antilles right now, because that one could easily become a tropical cyclone. So we'll just have to see. Well, Hurricane Laura is already out of the picture. Hurricane Laura is basically out of the picture, so it has almost nothing to do with the forecast anymore, basically. And generally, that's not how hurricanes work. They don't necessarily, one doesn't necessarily hit a particular area because one is slowing down. Obviously, you have to get one to form, and to get one to form, we require special kind of ingredients for those storms to form. So, we just don't know, what storm is going to hit where beyond 5 days. So, I wouldn't, definitely having a little too much obsession with the hurricane hitting Florida. So... would the ridge of high pressure strengthen ahead of the disturbance in the main development region? So we can take a look at that. That is exactly why I had it up previously. So we'll look here at the Euro and the 500 millibar heights. And you can see the strength of the ridge of high pressure out here at 5 days. It does look like it wants to kind of weaken a tad bit. But it's probably going to start trying to kind of build back in over top. So it does look like that the ridge would probably start to build back in, forcing these storms further west. And the GFS does kind of illustrate that by the end of its forecast run, having the ridge kind of build up over top of it and kind of connecting the two ridges between the Eastern Pacific and the Atlantic. And that kind of coincides with these waves just moving due west. So probably it would be building over top of it. What could be causing these waves to head more west this year? Basically, moving more west, that has to do with the strength of the ridge of high pressure to its north. The ridge of high pressure is keeping these storms from turning on out to sea. That's forcing them due westward. And as they strengthen and intensify, they can't get pulled further in a poleward direction due to the strength of the ridge. So it's basically kind of forced around that ridge and rounding that ridge, basically. And that's happened with Irma. Or not Irma, with Laura. A couple of interesting takes that Philippe Papin had tweeted. It seems like the disturbance east of the Antilles have finally yeah, so it has some mid-level spin to it. And I'll show you here on the visible. It had some mid-level spin, but it did not necessarily... It hasn't acquired enough of a spin yet. So we'll be watching it, though, very carefully over the next several days to see if this really wants to really try to get itself kind of going. What name do you think will hit Florida? It's just kind of too hard to say there, Harrison. Again, it certainly is something that, remains to be seen. That's kind of the big question. But it's just too early to tell, man. I trust me. I wish I could tell you. I wish I knew in the future, but unfortunately, I don't have that skill. But we're the science just isn't necessarily good enough yet to predict, beyond the 5 day realm. The storm near Cape Verde, I saw a tweet from Philippe Papin. It's an ITCZ monsoonal depression setup in the Western Pacific. Yeah. And I saw that Philippe had tweeted that it almost looks like the Western Pacific monsoonal. I'm not very, very familiar with what happens in the Western Pacific because I don't mainly focus on that. I focus Eastern and Atlantic Basin. But I did notice that, and that is certainly something very interesting. I really hope that Florida doesn't get hit by a hurricane. I'll be very honest with you. I really hope that Florida does not get hit by a hurricane. By the way, if you could untime out John. Okay, yeah, I was gonna say. I was gonna say so, because he didn't do anything to kind of be deserved to be timed out. But if it was a mistake, then that's okay. Connecticut, I don't. Again, it's just too early to determine that right now. It's just kind of a little too early to determine what, if any, impacts is going to occur beyond the 5 day realm. But you have 3 tropical systems that are out there currently, 3 that we're going to have to watch, and all 3 of them have some potential to develop over the next couple of days with land potential in mind. So a major hurricane to hit Texas, and again, it's just kind of one of those things. It's too hard to determine. But, we could easily see one of these waves kind of sneak in here, and find themselves, in this general vicinity somewhere, or a wave that kind of gets trapped by the ridge of high pressure and moves due that way. It's not entirely unlikely, and we almost saw that happen with Hurricane Laura, that it moved into Texas, but thankfully it didn't. The wave has started bringing showers to St. Lucia. Not a big concern. I think the system behind it, the system behind it, will be something to monitor. Again, this one with the 40% chance of the next 5 days will be something that we're going to have to watch. Did you ever study meteorology? I'm going to college right now for meteorology. I actually started college this week on Monday, and I also started working Monday. But yes, I'm going to school for meteorology. By the way, for people who do not know what I am going to be doing, we're going to bring this up real quick. So, if you guys are unfamiliar about what I am doing, this is not active as of yet. So, this is not active as of right now. This will be active tomorrow. But I am doing a Patreon account. And if you guys do want to kind of go ahead and sign up, again, you guys can feel free to do so. This is not active as of right now. This will be active as of tomorrow, more than likely. And you can get access to basically everything, exclusive content and stuff like that. And there will be a lot more that is going to kind of come into that. And there's a lot of different things. I kind of have everything here, and just kind of scroll through it real quick. So, but certainly if you guys are interested in that, let me know in the comments section below. Also, I have a poll up in my community section on YouTube that can basically talk about what we're doing. And if you guys do want to support it, there's a poll basically for that. A category 2 can cause pretty bad damage by itself, even if it's not a 3 or 4. Yeah, certainly, it only takes, even a category 1, or even a tropical storm or something like that to really kind of get things kicking along, And I certainly wouldn't be surprised to see another system, come along and try to, do something. Let's see. I'm going to college to become a meteorologist too this year. I just graduated high school this year, May of 2020. Hey man, that's great. Great. I wish you the best of luck with that, honestly. To answer your question, North America, to answer your question, I typically have people over a 3 to like a 3 stream period. If you're here for 3 streams and you behave yourself and everything, absolutely then. But this will be something we'll really have to watch here over the next 5 days. The pattern is going to become more favorable. The Madden-Julian oscillation right now is in a pretty favorable environment in the Atlantic Basin right now, with a pretty great rising motion over basically Africa and all of the other areas. So this seems to be a pretty interesting setup, and that continues right in through about week 2. Yeah, Florida will have to be monitored. Florida will have to be monitored, but to be fair, everybody will really have to monitor pretty carefully from, from the Cabo Verde Islands to St. Lucia, the Grenadines, everywhere. Everywhere in a hurricane-prone area has to be ready this season. Do you think Georgia is overdue? To be honest with you, April, I do. I do think that I do think that will be the case. Why was Harrison... okay. I thought, honestly, Harrison, I thought for a minute that you got timed out for 300 seconds. I was like, so I was just like looking for that. I was like, oh, wait a minute. Never mind, you're good though. How much damage do you think Laura caused? Right now, it's probably... I'm going to probably have to venture and say it's close to be in the billions, to be quite fair. Because this was a very strong storm, Category 4, but it's going to be something we're going to have to watch, given a very favorable environment, in the Atlantic Basin right now. You could have one after another, after another, after another. Yes, John, I can see your message. They said it's 12 billion. Wow. 12 billion. That is a lot. Mods can't get timed out by other mods. Okay, that's great to know. That is great to know for sure. Was the storm surge for Laura less than expected? So... It was for some locations, but right along the landfall point and directly east, that, especially in Cameron, Louisiana, and further eastward, in a very remote section, it was extremely bad. So, technically not, but, we'll kind of find out what the real surge values were, as time goes on. Yeah, Georgia is certainly well overdue at this point. Georgia is certainly well overdue. So, hopefully, crossing our fingers that nothing comes this year. But Harvard 17, just like Laura. So, Irma 2.0 next. Hopefully not. Hopefully, we don't have an Irma 2.0. I'm pretty sure. I know that there was a storm surge value of 17 feet somewhere just east of the landfall point. So I know there was at least 17 feet of storm surge in some location. Yeah, Lake Charles got slammed pretty hard, and the radar dome from the Lake Charles Weather Service office got blown off and was completely destroyed, almost like the radar dome in San Juan, Puerto Rico with Hurricane Maria. The Carolinas are certainly due for a major hurricane landfall. That is for sure. And that's good, Max. I'm going to take a look at the Discord server probably tomorrow when I get time to. How do you feel about hurricanes hitting Georgia this year? Probably discussed this already, but I don't know. So, to answer your question, there is a possibility. Georgia's certainly well overdue for major hurricane landfalls. And, again, the pattern is such that the Atlantic Basin doesn't want to have storms that recurve as much this year. So, I can't say for sure anything is going to happen, obviously, but there's a definite chance. Definite chance that, something at least threatens that area. And, we almost kind of saw that with, Isaias, but, it just wasn't a major and it didn't turn into Florida, or didn't turn into Georgia. But, it came pretty close. For example, Maria formed near 50 West and is a Cat 5 at landfall. Yeah, and that was, Maria just took off once it got into the Lesser Antilles, basically. Yeah, today was the 15th anniversary of Hurricane Katrina. It's absolutely incredible. New York getting hit by a hurricane. Again, it's too hard to determine. Too hard to say beyond 5 days out. Again, you know, any chances are certainly possible, but it's just too hard to determine, and the science just isn't good that right now to be speculating beyond 5 days in terms of who's at risk for hurricanes to hit their area this year. So, of course, if something ever does come that way, I'll obviously be all over it. But you know, you dealt with Tropical Storm Faye earlier this year, so, but too hard to determine that right now at this time. We're just too far out in time. So, just a little too far out in time. If New York City gets hit by a major hurricane, oh yeah, that for sure. I am actually going on 19 in 2 days. I turned 19 in 2 days. Think of it, Maria formed and rapidly intensified because of warm waters, low shear. Yeah, you know, and that's what we saw with, you know, Hurricane Laura just, you know, a couple of days ago. You know, low shear, high water temperatures, high upper ocean heat content, and a nearly perfect environment, and boom, and it just went off. And, you know, it took off once it got into a more favorable Gulf of Mexico. And, you know, that's the same thing that happened with Laura, you know, the same thing that happened with, you know, most storms. Hi, would Disturbance 2 hitting Florida model show a 2 or 3, maybe sea storm? Your thoughts? So, to answer your question there, again, right now it is just too hard to determine what, if any, impacts any of these disturbances are going to have. This right here is disturbance number 2 that you're talking about. It is still way out in time, and to be quite honest with you, this has a chance that it may not even develop. So right now, you know, beyond the 5-day specter is just too hard to determine at this point. So hope that answers your question sufficiently. Alrighty, bye. Have a fantastical evening there, sir. New York chances of getting hit by a hurricane are always low. Thermodynamic environment, but yeah, the thermodynamic environment isn't all that favorable out there. How long does it take the Gulf to warm back up? Don't you think cold fronts? So here's the thing: the Gulf of Mexico, if it's literally undisturbed in that part of the Gulf for the next 2 to 3 weeks, it will automatically rebound within 2 to 3 weeks. But as towards your second question, do you think cold fronts will keep all storms away? So it really depends, because if a cold front comes through, let's say a storm is right where disturbance 1 is, and you get a cold front that kind of sweeps, or a trough that sweeps into the United States, this will not feel the impacts of that. So, but it will start to feel the impacts as it begins to erode that ridge, but it won't necessarily keep all storms away from landfall. Sometimes it can actually be a harbinger for inducing landfalls, and we saw that with Hurricane Michael, that a trough kind of picked it up, moved it northward, and impacted Mexico Beach, and, you know, the rest is history. So well, they said these temperatures in 2020 are a lot warmer. Yeah, so these water temperatures, you know, this year have been warmer than average, certainly. So they've certainly been a lot warmer than average, you know, all around, basically, and even up in the Northeast. So, I'm going to start going ahead and wrapping everything up. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. I just wanted to get in here, do a little bit of a live stream today, and kind of just get back into the swing of things. Again, if you guys are interested in crowdfunding and everything else like that, I will be putting in tomorrow's hurricane season update, I will be putting a link to my Patreon and going over everything there. Would you do a birthday live stream? It's certainly possible, but I'd be working on my birthday more than likely, because it falls on a Monday this year, so we'll see. We'll see if my availability allows for that. When was the last time Central Florida from Tampa to Daytona Beach directly hit from a hurricane? Irma in 2017. Probably. I have a question. Will you live stream tomorrow? Also, do you have a Patreon? So, I do have a Patreon. It is not active yet, but it will be active as of tomorrow, and I'll do another live stream tomorrow going over everything, and I'll also talk about Patreon during tomorrow's hurricane season update. Yeah, 2004 was Florida's worst hurricane season for sure. I think 04 and 05. I would not be surprised if that wave develops into a TC tomorrow or Monday. By the way, I'm 18. That's nice to know, John, and congrats on being an adult, obviously, but yeah, we'll have to watch one of these waves and, see if it tries to, kind of get going. It takes a little bit of time, but we'll have to see, so, but, with that being said, I think we're going to go ahead and kind of wrap everything up. Thank you very much for that. That really means a lot to me. And thank you, everyone, for your tremendous support, because that really means a lot to me. And, without you guys, I certainly would not be able to do this at all. So I do appreciate each and every one of you for kind of coming out and supporting the stream and supporting the channel. That really does mean a lot. Thank you very, very much for that, Manuel. Which model has been doing the best so far? The CMC and the Icon in terms of Tropical Cyclone Genesis, but no real model is doing that great. I believe if there is no Saharan air, dry air, no wind shear, the Atlantic would probably be active. It probably would be, to be quite honest with you. When cold front coming in the next week, they say it's going to be a major one. So there will be a cold front kind of dipping down, but it's not going to be that significant, but it could bring some cooler air, some refreshing air towards the Midwest. Thank you for your hard work. This channel is thank you very much for that, man. That really means a lot to me, and I'm grateful that everyone here, including you, supports the channel. Again, your contributions to this channel really, really helps. So I thank you all for coming to this live stream this evening, and I'll talk to you guys again some more tomorrow. So be on the lookout for a hurricane update tomorrow, and I will be also doing a live stream tomorrow, more geared towards how everyone can support me on Patreon. All right. With that being said, have a great rest of your evening, everybody. Of course, I am Michael O'Malley. I'll talk to you guys some more tomorrow. Stay safe, everyone.